Hello everybody, welcome to my living room in Madrid and welcome to this whatever 15th or 20th question and answer. I hope I can tell you something new because I'm probably repeating myself over the years. Isn't that always embarrassing when old people start telling the same stories over and over? And with musicians that's even worse because we have only this one musical life and we end up saying the same things over and over. I catch myself, but I mean, obviously I'm seeing new people in masterclasses, for example, all the time, so I'm forced to say the same things. For example, when we teach or when we play the cello, that we have to work well into the string and playing close to the bridge. This is something I probably have to say 95% of the students, especially in the lower registers. I'm just a little catch up what I have been doing this summer, which is not so much. I have a rather easy summer. I had 2 weeks off in July, which I spent in the mountains with my son. Then I was teaching at the Mahler Academy in Bolzano and Bozen in northern Italy, which was lovely. Very good students, but again, a lot of working into the string and closer to the bridge and all these same things. After that, I went on a mini tour with the Asian Youth Orchestra playing Elgar, which I posted on my Patreon channel, and little excerpts on Instagram. Actually, it was funny. We played in a church in Bergamo, the Basilica Santa Maria di Maggiore, and a big, beautiful church. I think the grave of Donizetti was 20 meters from where I sat. And my microphone was about 4 meters from where I sat. So I was a bit afraid that maybe it will become all blurry because of the acoustic. But strangely, the microphone, I mean, not the microphone, my recording device, the H4n Zoom or whatever it's called, picked up the cello very clearly and straight, while the orchestra sounded a bit echoey. So it's a bit off the balance, but otherwise I think I was quite happy with the collaboration and also how it came out. Because the last time I played it before that was in Oxford, and I realized when I watched the video that my first chords were too short. And I wasn't aware of it. This kind of lazy retake instead of so that it almost sounds like that we have a long line, and I tried to fix that last time. Also, I don't like the breaking of the first chord. I believe it should be one round beginning, like this. Doesn't have to be all together at the same time, but not and that's also not good. Because all these composers, they were not cellists. They often came from the piano. And the pianist would never play a chord like ooh, ooh. They would either roll it or I mean, they hardly ever do k. But a good pianist would have some kind of trick how to not make it sound ugly and only together. There was a concert in Berlin as well, and I stayed 2 days, after which I went to south of France playing the Julian Anderson Concerto, which was an open air thing, and I thought, oh god, that's never gonna work because open air and cello, it doesn't sound so good. But somehow this venue in Roc d'Entoran, which is a piano festival, was actually quite nice. I just posted something on Instagram, the Cadenza, which is completely nuts. Check it out. It's the composer writes, it's improvised. So we have first 4 bars improvised, then 2 bars written out. He wants some crazy harmonic line there, And then again, the improvisation. And the improvisation, he just says, change between ponticello sul tasto, fortissimo, triple fortissimo and mezzo forte, switching between open string and harmonics, and unexpected accents, any speed and different speeds. So it's like, do whatever you like. And I always felt weird doing that because I'm a classical musician and I'm trained to do what I'm told to do. So if suddenly we have the option of doing whatever, that's scary. I remember in the world premiere I felt like an idiot. Then in the second or third performance I felt still like an idiot. But the composer was always very happy. Also, I didn't have a plan, so I was just freaking out. I never really sunk my teeth into that cadenza, like coming up with a game plan. I wanted to really improvise it in the moment. But I think 3 days ago was the concert. That was so far the best version I had, I think. That's why I posted it. The first question I have is by my patron Stephen Shaw. And he asks, do you play differently for recordings than for concerts? Specifically, do you approach sound production differently, aiming for a more pleasing sound under the ear rather than a sound that will be heard all throughout the concert hall? Truth to be told, I hated recordings when I started playing the cello publicly. I won some competition when I was 20 and it came with a recording, and I didn't like the process at all. I think I liked the performing process, like being in front of people and playing and showing what I can do and like sharing emotions and stories. In a recording you have this microphone there, so for the first 5-10 years of my playing I recorded a bit sterile. So I was a bit too careful, and when I was in my late 20s they named me part of the first young generation scheme at the BBC, which I hardly accepted because I felt old already with 30, but I'm glad I did, because I learned so much as they sent us a lot in recording studios. And there I had this wonderful sound engineer, Alban Gerhardt, and he was amazing. He made me feel at ease and he enjoyed what we as a group, I mean, I played with Stephen Osborne and Lisa Batjashvili, piano trios, we recorded some stuff. He enjoyed what we were doing, so it felt like playing for an audience. So finally, when I started recording, I tried to imagine it being a concert. And this said, I would not think of, I should be careful for the microphone. But a concert, you go full in, you need all the colors, and this is a cello. Even though with a microphone you can fix balance, we still need all the range of colors we can possibly get. As if we play here and if we watch out that the sound is pristine and perfect, it just gets boring. So I'd rather take some extra takes, repeat things more often until you get it right than going for the perfect sound. So to answer your question, Stephen, I would approach it the same way. But in concert, there are different demands. So if the hall is bad, or if I feel the orchestra is loud or the pianist is too loud, there I might then really go over the limit at times. Something I might not do in a recording. The last recordings were in wonderful halls. They sounded fantastic. So there was a lot of support from the room acoustic. So I didn't have to work as hard to get the right balance and do what I want. And if that was a concert hall, I would have played exactly the same. But most concert halls are not like that. And then there's audience, which takes away a lot of room acoustic. So you have to work harder to make it work. So finally, in recording, I don't play quite as rough or as on the edge like in concert, but I prepare exactly the same. So I prepare as if it was a concert, I go play, but in concert the demands are higher to go very deep. In a recording, we have to go deep as well, but not as much. Well, it just brings me back to the same story I have been telling many times already. My first time I ever recorded a Bach suite, which was in 2004-5 or so. I recorded it together with the Kodaly Solosonata and Britain suite. And the first day I did the Kodaly, and then at the end of the day I played the Bach suite. And it felt very good. I wanted to play it once through and listen to it, how it sounded. And the result was quite sad. It sounded boring and uninspired. So I had taken too much care that it sounded good. So I was a bit too far away from the bridge. And then and finally I went back to the hotel and practiced the whole suite closer to the bridge to get more depth to the sound. The sound sounded like shallow. Even though you would think, oh, but the microphone is fine. No, even the microphone picked up that I had a dynamical range of this. But if you want to go from really soft and really loud, you need to explore everything and not just between here and here. But you have to go between here and there, even in Bach. And now I'm playing scoratura, so I don't know how to do that. But the sound there should be quite deep. So that's for a microphone the same like for a concert. We need the depth. If we go then for me that's lame. Sorry. This is Kleopatra and she's being a good doggy today. It's my son's dog, but he's in Germany at the camping ground of my sister, so I'm watching the dog. Tomorrow I go to Switzerland to teach at some institute, VR Institute, and then two weeks holidays again. So this summer is very, very relaxed and easy. Yes, I like his music. He's a good composer. Accidental moments as musical. Well, the accidental, he writes these high, this kind of stuff. He wants it as loud as possible, and he says they will break. So he wants the breaking. He wants the desperation in the sound. I chose Madrid as a residence because 6 years ago or 7 years ago, my wife got a job here. She's the concertmaster of the Teatro Real in Madrid, the opera. And we moved from Berlin here because for me it doesn't matter where I live, I just need a good airport. And actually the airport in Madrid is a little bit better than the one in Berlin. Sorry. I mean, Berlin is my native city. I was born there and I lived there until 88. I left before the wall came down, so I'm a West Berliner. I studied in Cincinnati for a year, then I studied in Cologne for 3 years, and then I moved to New York because I fell in love with a woman and with the city, and then I fell out of love with a woman and in love with another woman, but I stayed in New York until 2001. Beginning of 2001 I moved back to Berlin, where I lived for another 16 years, and now it's Madrid. And although my wife, we're still married, but we're not together anymore, but we're best friends, so we do something called the nest principle. We have a small place and a big place. Here's the big place where the kid lives. So whoever is in charge of the kid is here in the big place. I mean, it's not that big, but bigger. And the other one is a little attic, a kilometer away from here. So the other one who is not with him gets to be free. So it's quite new for me because I have been a father since 1999 and I always felt the obligation to be there as much as I could. And now sometimes even I'm free, I don't have to be with him anymore because, yeah, the mother is a wonderful mother, so she can do it on her own. Well, that's the story about Madrid. A follow-up question, is it a good city for musical life? Actually, yes, there's a lot of music going on. I'm not participating as much as I like to, but it's a wonderful city. The concert hall is the Auditorio Nacional, and they have a lot of wonderful visiting orchestras. The local orchestra here is very good. Then they have the radio orchestra. They're also quite good, and they get good conductors and do interesting programs. I mean, it's no comparison to Berlin. Berlin is the problem. There's so much great stuff going on. You never manage to see it all. And now I miss 90% of the things going on as well, but at least it's 90% and not 99% like in Berlin. You're one of the orchestra players when I performed in Hong Kong a couple of months ago. Just want to thank you for playing with us in the Brahms Symphony. It was very inspired by your playing. Oh, thank you very much. Well, for those who don't know, I love playing second halves in the orchestra. I always ask. Well, I didn't ask now in Rock d'Antoron because I was in the second half, and after me was a 10-minute piece for violin and orchestra by Dutilleux, and I wouldn't have wanted to side read something like that. But whoever played cello in an orchestra knows the cello part is not so horribly difficult most of the times, and even if it is, there's a lot of room to hide. And I'm a very experienced orchestra player. My dream was to become an orchestra player when I was growing up because my father was member of Berlin Phil for 45 years. So my dream was to sit at some point next to him. Things happened, so I didn't pursue that dream. But still, at heart, I'm a musician like everybody. But orchestra playing is a big passion. I mean, I played in the German Youth Orchestra, the Bundesjugendorchester, Federal Youth Orchestra of Germany. And these 10 projects I did with them, first in the tutti and then the last one as a principal cellist, I will never forget. They completely changed me entirely. I was a different person before playing music in an orchestra and sharing the music with others. I mean, this is something I'm admiring of the people in Venezuela, the whole idea of El Sistema, to learn an instrument. I mean, I don't know if you know about El Sistema, but you learn an instrument and immediately you get to play with others. How I was raised took a couple of years. It took probably 3-4 years until I managed to play with somebody. Not true. When I played the cello for 2 years, I got to sit in the Schubert Quintet with my father and some colleagues, and that was one of the highlights of my childhood, or maybe the highlight of my childhood. And that's the point. Playing music together is such an amazing experience. And in the whole El Sistema, they give that experience at the very beginning. I mean, obviously they learn how to play, and the first steps, probably you don't want to listen to that. But for the kids, it gives them a purpose. I mean, just to sit in your room, practice whatever you practice, it's hard. And if you know the beauty of creating beautiful sound together, then you know why you're doing it. So that happened. I played in the German Youth Orchestra the first time when I was 15. So I played already the cello for 6-7 years. And I had played some chamber music, but I won't ever forget the first time I sat there. I was lost, but I was so in love. We did Sibelius' Second Symphony as first piece, and oh God, the sound and the interaction. Especially, I don't know if you ever saw young orchestras, but there's so much enthusiasm. First romances happened in these youth orchestras. So very long answer for a short question. At heart, I'm an orchestra musician. About repertoire, do you have some composers or works that you wish to play but haven't played yet? I'm not proud of it, but at heart, I'm a very romantic soul and a very romantic musician. So if I had to name a period, it would be probably from whatever 1850 until 1950 or 60. Well, that's not romantic anymore, I know, but Strauss and Shostakovich and Prokofiev and all these composers included. They're not really contemporary or modern. With modern music, it doesn't come as easy to me, like Baroque music. If I had to choose, it would be this. So I'm not really listening to much music, and I don't know too many cello concertos which are out there. So right now I cannot say that I'm hoping for any other concerto to learn which exists. Although there must be many concertos I don't know which I haven't heard yet. So if you have any recommendations of a piece I should learn, and which orchestras might be willing to schedule, because that's what my condition. I learn it by heart, but then there needs to be at least 3 orchestras, because I'm not learning it for just one-off. It's just too much work. I mean, I premiered 3 concertos, or maybe 2 more, but those 2 didn't count. I won't say the names. So I premiered 3 concertos which matter, by Unzug-Chin and Brett Dean and Julian Anderson. And the Unzug-Chin was 2009, Brett Dean was 2016, 17, something like that. The Anderson was 2020, and my dream is to premiere per decade 2 pieces. So that's not much. So in the last 1.5 decades, I have premiered 3 cello concertos. And why so few? Because I think it's more important to try to push them forward so that they get better and better. Like now, what I did 3 days ago, that was definitely the best performance I did. Sorry, Jamie, you played wonderful, but the piece grows and grows. Jamie is a musician from the Hong Kong Sinfonietta, and I played there in February, the one before the last time, the Anderson Concerto. And now this was the next time. I don't know how many times I've played it now, but each time I play this piece, and I played already the world premiere by heart, so I had learned it very well, but each time the piece gets better and better and better and better, and I feel more connected with it, and I understand it better. So modern pieces, more than any other works, need to be repeated over and over again, otherwise we don't get them. Unless they're bad, then we can just forget about them. That's why Rostropovich was for me the most important cellist. I don't agree with all his interpretations, but he really pushed the pieces onto the standard repertoire. If it wasn't for him, who knows if we would still be playing them. The Shostakovich and Prokofievs and Dutilleux and Lutoslavsky, and did he do Schnittke as well? I don't know. And Schnittke we don't play, and that's quite a pity actually. To answer your question, I would love to play the Schnittke number 1 again. I have played it early 2000, and it's a phenomenal piece. Maybe I post a recording on Patreon soon, but that's a great piece. I hope to play that again soon. And the composers I'm thinking of, or where I hope they will write a cello concerto, would be John Adams and Thomas Adesch. Well, but this would be a dream. I don't know if they're interested, because to write a cello concerto is not easy. We don't have the same overtones like the violin, so they have to be more careful with the texture of the orchestra. Like Unzug Chin, who wrote this beautiful concerto for me, she took 4 or 5 years to write it. I mean, she didn't write it 5 years, but she postponed it again and again, and it was a slow process, because she had so much respect, or she was so aware how difficult it is to write for cello and a big orchestra, as it's just easily covered. With the position of your left knee behind the cello, how do you counteract forces when playing loud on the C string? I don't need to counteract. Actually, much easier. Or no? What's loud? What can one play loud on the C string? I don't need to counteract. There's something wrong with me. It's because if I press my knee is right there. My right knee is at the side and the left knee is underneath. So the cello is a bit crooked. I think there's a video where I explain why I do that. Somebody pointed it out that it had something to do with the golden cut, so that we are not completely parallel with the bow, but a little bit this. And I tried it and the cello sounded better. And I got used to playing it like this. Also with the first position, if it's here, it's much closer. And supposedly wolves are being able to be killed if we support with our left knee the sound pose. Well, because when I press here, my knee is stopping the cello. So it's not like the knee is gone. Then the cello would be sliding over, but my knee is touching the cello's back. And this way, if it's like this, actually I'm farther away. For the C string this is better, because the C string is closer and it's much harder to produce a big sound on the C string than the A string, but the A string is closer as well. So the whole thing is actually, oh yeah, I like it. Good choice. Try it. Got used to it. It took a while. Is there any personal background on your taste of cello playing which doesn't prefer large vibrato like Maisky or Shafran? Yeah, the great singers. I mean, great singing, the vibrato is not so huge. And there are singers who have huge vibrato, but for me that's not great singing, that's bad technique. If a singer goes like, that's not a note, that's just like a siren. So great, the vibrato should serve some kind of purpose and not be vibrato by itself. So, I mean, I don't know Misha Maisky well enough. I don't own a CD and I heard only 3-4 minutes in a concert once. So I cannot speak for him, but the 15 minutes of Shafran I heard I didn't like, because it's not the size of the vibrato. Like now in the Anderson Concerto, I thought my vibrato up there was too big as well. It's a weakness to have a big vibrato there. That's a weakness. It's more difficult. The correct answer is I don't like pop music. Never liked it. I'm a nerd. I'm a classic nerd. So I grew up with the most wonderful singers. Actually, the favorite singer of my mother was Maria Cebotari. My mother was a coloratura soprano. Oh, and that's my background. So my mother had this gorgeous voice, and also her vibrato was beautiful. Just like, yeah, never too big. I mean, already Maria Callas, whom I adore, but when she got older, her higher register, she was like that. But even that was controlled. It was not like what I just imitated. But for me, that was a little bit too slow, and I think it was also a lack of tech. I mean, I think she lost a lot of weight, and then she couldn't control the vibrato in the higher register as well as before. But that's my personal take. I don't know. I'm not a specialist for singers. Yeah, or Maria Schwarzkopf. Elisabeth Schwarzkopf, sorry. And then the men, Fritz Wunderlich, Fischer Dieskau, all these wonderful singers. But even Fyodor Shalyapin, a Russian singer, he didn't do... It's not this was... That is a nice... For me... If it lacks the center, I personally don't like it. And then for me it becomes more of a trick than a vocal thing. Oh, and about pop music, for me the vibrato of Shafran, like, it's a bit, I mean, I'm a bad imitator of and I swear I have not heard much. I haven't heard more than 15 minutes of Shafran because I couldn't take it. Even though he was a phenomenal cellist. When the sound becomes more important than the music. For me, sound is important, but not more than 20-30%. The rest is the musical content and the message and the phrasing and the dynamics and what you do with a piece of music. This is just an instrument to make music with. But if that becomes the most important thing, and that's what I say when I teach, I said, don't play cello, make music. We should forget that it's a cello. It should just become part of music. It doesn't have to be a voice, but just think of the music you want to play and then play it, and not do something like mechanical things. But I think it has to do with my mother, because she had this gorgeous voice and she sang like that with small vibrato and I mean, and even if you have big vibrato here, that's big, you cannot apply the same amplitude an octave higher. There's no, you have to go, and here and I was just teaching one of my patrons, Martin, who played wonderful Anna Klein concerto. Oh, he played it in the lesson and he will perform it with his orchestra. And we talked about the vibrato, and that's why I was upset with myself. In the Anderson Concerto now, 3 days ago, I watched the video, and the vibrato is a little bit, when I play super loud, it gets the same thing. While if you play, what is that, what I played? So we have to play loud here, but at the same time not do that. We want to do it because energy here is like this. The two hands want to do the same thing, but they shouldn't. So here we have to give as much energy as we can, and here it's different energy. It doesn't have to be non-vibrato, but it cannot be this wobbly thing, because there's like two notes. And this is exactly the place I listened to, and I was like, oh, too big. Bleh. It's a shortcoming, it's a defect. Thanks for all your questions, Julian. By the way, your blackout Kodaly video was very helpful. I could overcome today's horrible situation on the stage. Oh, good. Well, glad to be of help. I posted last summer a little excerpt from me playing the Kodaly Solosonata from Verbier. And it was, I wasn't that nervous. I was actually really into it. I played on a cello I'd never played on, so that might have had to do with that. But and the fact that Mr. Maisky sat in the first row had nothing to do with it, because I didn't realize he was sitting too far away and I didn't have my contacts on. I mean, too far to the side. But I just hit a blackout. And so I went back a couple of bars and I couldn't overcome that place. So I did it, I think, 3 times until I finally managed. And I posted that. Why? Well, I wanted to show that it's not the end of the world if you have a blackout. You just keep on going, and it is frightening in the moment. I hated myself. I thought, you idiot. How could you forget? I mean, it was this. Oh no, I have to tune the cello. I'm too lazy, but I know exactly what it was. And it wasn't the first time. I haven't practiced that in a couple of months, and now I can play it. I even see the notes, but I didn't see them in the moment. That was really black. That's why blackout is good. You don't know where you are. It's like, oh, and then you know your point, some backup point before. So I went again, and same thing was suddenly dark. But it's not the end of the world, and the end of the day, as long as we don't start crying and leave the stage. And that's why I posted it. So I'm not glad you had a bad experience, but I'm glad it helped you. Hi Derek, have you ever listened to video game compositions like Frostpunk by the composer Piotr Musial? These compositions are deeply emotional and beautifully captivating. No, I have never played a game. Well, when I got my first laptop That was in the late 90s, I guess. And there was some game, Solitaire. So I played that for too long. And then I deleted it. And from then on, I always deleted the games on any laptop. So on my cell phone, on my... I don't have a single game, so I don't know any gaming music. But there are so many beautiful emotional things in the romantic repertoire. So I would expect from a modern composer a little bit more. And it might work well for video games. But maybe he's really a fantastic composer and he just makes some money with it. So I cannot judge. But I want from a modern composer his own style, so that you can hear his music is like, okay, that's him. And not just like, there's this one composer, I forgot the name. Oh yeah, Alexei Shor, I think. They wanted me to play cello concerto by him, and I listened to it and it just sounded like romantic music with a lot of brass. But not very good romantic music. And there's so much great romantic music, we don't need another not so great romantic piece. Even though audiences like it because they're happy, they're turned off by too much incomprehensible music, so they're happy now to hear something they know and then being told it's contemporary. So it is contemporary but not really modern. If it's completely tonal. And there's nothing against tonal. Do we really have to go 200 years back in the musical development, or are there other ways to bring in the listener to listen to the music? But thanks for the recommendation. I will definitely check it out. Can you tell me more about the way to kill the wolf by pressing with your knee? Finally, I don't have many wolves. So you try to be in contact with it, and you have to press anyway. It's about pressure here, and if the knee supports the sound pose. I've had some success with cellos with wolves doing that, but I don't know if it's really physically and scientifically proven that this works. And it doesn't work with every cello. The idea is that we support the sound pose with the left knee. So the sound pose is somewhere there, I guess, standing, and if we put our knee there, supposedly the wolf gets weaker or something, and it works at some cellos, but there's not much more I can tell you, sorry. What do you think about Truls' Mörk vibrato? Oh god, I also don't know his playing very well. I heard him once in concert playing the Dutilleux, and that was very beautiful, but that's like 7 years ago, so I don't know. But if it's too big, I probably don't. I mean, if it's like this, I would not like it very much. So, or this. I don't like these swells everywhere. I mean, if you do it once in a while, but if that is the main thing, that's the discussion I had with Stephen Isserlis. He loves Daniel Shafran, and he told me that Shafran is like a folk singer, and I told him, well, what I heard so far really doesn't sound like a Russian folk singer. It sounds like a Russian pop folk singer. So this is this pop singing. That's why I said initially I don't like pop music, and that's really, I mean, there's probably wonderful pop music. I just don't like it very much. I don't like the way they sing, and I have the feeling that this is a little bit more pop singing than anything. Already this kind of, that's very poppy, this, with a lot of air and no real support. So my crusade I'm on, not playing on the fingerboard all the time, that has to do probably with that. I don't like this sound, this, we go with the microphone really near, like the sexy, like Marilyn Monroe singing Happy Birthday, Mr. President. I mean, yeah, let her sing that, it's fine. But if you apply that onto classical music, no, not for me. And that's why if somebody takes lessons with me, that's what I'm going to try to stop. This kind of approach. And follow-up question, what about Stephen Isserlis? I think he's a wonderful musician and a great guy, but yes, I heard him a bit more than Truls Mörk, and when the only thing I don't like of his playing is when this vibrato pops out, and it happens once in a while, and then I mean, he's a fantastic player. They're all fantastic players, and that's not what I like to listen to. I mean, they're wonderful musicians and they're great cellists. It's just not my cup of tea, the vibrato part of it. And if there's too much of this, the quick bow speed, this kind of cloudy. I grew up with Casals and Feuermann on these old cellists, and somehow that's still what I prefer most. Bit more concentrated sound, not this cloudy thing. That's how I played when I came in 1989 to Pergamenchikov to study with him in Cologne, and he wanted to open my sound, and he saw at my face that I wasn't so convinced, and he said, well, you don't have to play like that all the time, but you should be able to do it. And that was a very good point, because yes, and now I see myself playing. I play often with some faster bow speed, but sometimes not. So it's what we call bow distribution. Sometimes we need a bit more this, and sometimes we need a bit more the intensity and the core to the sound. Do you have any tips on the runs in Elgar fourth movement? You mean the... This one? Well, for that, I mean, I did a whole play talk on that, so check out the Patreon site. Well, there I talk about a couple of concertos, not in entirety, but I think the Elgar is there completely. And there are some, I talk about probably the runs, I guess. The trick is that you don't go full in for this. If you do that, then you're screwed at the... You need to have the intensity, but... And then you can open. But if the run is already too loud, then, because it's not the run which is the danger in this passage, but the last note. And the other ones, you mean the... Well, practice it slowly and with a lot of articulation, and so you see, here the focus should be on the right hand, actually. So all those string crossings, they should be quite nothing here, but the elbow leads the way. And try to get those hairpins. This da 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 da. That's hard. Because the hairpin is on the D string, that's much harder. Runs in general, just practice them slowly, and then practice them with rhythms. Sorry. But you see the sound all the time in, nothing. You need the sound there, and the other rhythm would be like this. So that's how you practice runs, and then with metronome. Sorry. I agree with your opinion about Casals' type of playing over the others. I'm curious to know your thoughts on Gauthier's trill sort of vibrato. Oh, Gauthier Capuçon is another cellist I've never heard. Oh, once for 1 minute I checked out. I saw some reel for 1 minute that was very good cello playing, but I never heard a single CD nor a recording. But what I heard, I know what you mean. And I just had a young student this morning on Patreon, so through Zoom, and he did this vibrato, and I'm sorry, this is not vibrato, this is a trill. This is a microtrill, and I find it very ugly. So if Gauthier, which I cannot believe that Gauthier would do that, because he's a very good cellist, but this is a horrible note. If I hear this, I leave the hall. If I hear another cellist, well, I didn't leave the other day, that's true. I think too many people do that. It's not vibrato. I agree. To vibrate on, especially on the first position on the cello, is hard. So you have to practice. So the idea is that we don't do this. We don't have this vibrato, but we go a little bit with a. You see here. So this. So the first finger is hard, but this is not. There's not a solution. And I don't mind cheating. Cheating is no problem, but then you must not hear it. But this I hear. It just sounds like. But I don't believe that Gautier is doing that. So, but that's my idea about the trill vibrato. That is, you put it perfectly. It's not vibrato. It's a trill. It's a microtrill. Currently, I'm 3 years into my cellist career. I have done some orchestra work playing Enigma variations and Mozart. Do you have tips for playing fast? Well, that's there is no. I don't have any tip except check out my daily routines on Patreon. You need to work on your left hand if you want to play fast. And cello is not such an easy instrument. The repertoire is not so difficult, but the instrument is not so easy. So we have to train anybody's daily routines. It doesn't have my daily routine, but something you have to work. And not with the pieces. If you only work playing fast with pieces, then no, that doesn't work. You need some kind of routine, which I won't go into all my daily routines now, but there's one. Well, actually, in my daily routines. One of the things is to unblock your finger here. So you cannot, this must not be locked. If you lock this, then there is a limit to playing fast. If you don't lock it, then the sky is the limit. Now, which is one of the reasons why I do my Kosman daily routine. That's the daily routine number 4, which is. You would think it's a trill exercise, but it's much more than that. It's an exercise to work the left hand without blocking with the thumb. Feel free to check out the Patreon site. They're my daily routines, which I do every day 1 hour. And then I can play fast. If I don't do that, I cannot play fast. Why do you pick The Brother Karamasov as your favorite novel? Have you got any musical inspiration from it? Well, it's the first book I read by Dostojevsky, who is one of my favorite authors, and it did influence me a lot back then. I was 19, 20, and it made me understand Shostakovich and Russian music in general much better, I think. So it's not the whining, but the deep, dark depression of the Russian soul and the complexity. So that's why I never liked Tchaikovsky being played flamboyant or this. This kind of approach to Shostakovich, in my eyes, is wrong, but that's just me. But Dostoevsky brought me to this. Russian doesn't work like that. I mean, I don't speak Russian, I don't read Russian, I read the German translation, but there's something deeper to it than this kind of, it's not bathtub music. Left hand work, it's better to do that independently from pieces. You're very welcome. Yes, I can recommend anybody just to, and they don't have to be my routines, but you have to find a way how to train both left and right hand in order to be the best cellist you can be. Thanks for watching. Lovely to see you. Have a good weekend and a lovely summer. Bye.